Hey guys, welcome back to another video for Alex's Flying Club. Right now we're in the Carenado Cessna 185F Amphibian model, and this is the second video that I'm making with this aircraft. And you may be familiar with this video because I have used it for my current channel trailer, which I made. It's an abbreviated version of this video, but this is the full flight, and I'm loving this aircraft. I'm going to do an exterior shot right here, and we'll take off some of the extras that are currently on the aircraft, like the pitot tube cover and things like that. But this is a great add-on, and I'm really enjoying it. The first video that I did, I flew in the evening, and it was a little gloomy, the lighting. But this video, it was in the daytime. I got to land on water and on land, and it was a full flight that I found on the internet. Somebody had actually posted this recommendation for a bush flight, and I'll put a link to the forum where I found it below. And it's going to be a nice flight. We're going to take off from this little airfield in Washington State. We're close to the border, and well, let me first go over the startup procedure before I get into the flight. So I put the I turn on the battery and put full mixture and full RPM in preparation for engine startup. I'm going to turn on the auxiliary fuel pump. You can see that I've hid the wheel so I can access these controls better. I'm going to start the magnetos. I'm going to put them to, I'm going to put them to the start setting. I got confused there. I put it, there we go. And as you start, you want to give a little bit of throttle so that the engine can start idling. And this is going to be a VATSIM flight, but there were no controllers in this area, so you will hear pings occasionally from the chat that I'm exchanging with others. So I turned off the fuel pump after startup. Just want to make sure your temperatures and fuel flow is looking normal. And all the temperatures are all the way at the right next to the co-pilot. Alright, now we did a pushback and we're taxiing to the takeoff area. So here we're going to do a run-up of the engine and check the temperatures and RPMs again. And this is where you access the fuel selector. Kind of have to move your view over if you're not using track IR. It's hidden under the seat. If you're on VATSIM with a controller, make sure you set your transponder code. That's right below the yellow looking navigation radio panel in the center of the dash. Make sure you set your elevator trim for takeoff setting. There's no line or anything. Actually, there may be a line to indicate takeoff setting. Now that I look at it again, it's really faint. Right in the middle there, like a brown line. In any case, I'll have to take a closer look at it next time. I am doing the narration after the fact. I did this flight a week or so ago. Now we're doing the engine run-up. You want to run your engine to 1700 RPM. And check your magnetos. The RPM drop should not exceed 150 for each one. So we drop it 1 and 2, and we see that it stays pretty close to 1700 RPMs. And your RPM gauge is to the right of that yellow navigation radio instrument. It's more like beige, actually. And actually, I should have probably kept the RPMs at 1700 and cycled. Well, you saw me cycle the RPMs, but I should have kept it at 1700 to check the suction gauge, which should be in the green, 4.6 to 5.4 inches of mercury. But I think I saw it stay in that green area when I did have the engine at 1700 RPMs. So. Just about ready to take off here, and once we do take off, I'll run through our flight plan, what we're going to be seeing during the course of the flight. We're going to put our flaps to 0 to 20 degrees is what's recommended. Actually, here, let me get out the other checklist that I'm looking at, because it's different for the amphibian model. It should be at 20 degrees for this model. Second notch of flaps. Here I'm checking out the autopilot. There's the master switch. It's pretty standard. You can do heading, approach hold, navigation hold, either with GPS or nav radio. Pretty standard, just like the default Cessna 172 that comes with Flight Simulator 2004, but it has a retro-looking panel. Do my final checks here. This is only the second takeoff I'm doing with this aircraft, so that's why I'm pausing before hitting the throttle. Make sure all my lights are on. Gonna keep our landing lights on during the course of the entire flight because we're not gonna go above 10,000 feet. Alright, ready to go. You want to get up to full throttle and about 2850 RPM, which is looking good on the RPMs. And takeoff is about 60-70 miles per hour. Apply smooth back pressure on the stick. You want to accelerate to 75 to 85 miles an hour before climbing. And your maximum rate of climb is going to be at 93 miles an hour with flaps fully retracted. Okay, so we're going to climb and eventually level out at our cruise altitude. And let me explain a little bit about our flight. So this flight is going to take us east into the mainland. Right now we're on the Pacific coast, and we're going to head over to a mountain. I'm actually not sure what the mountain's called, but it is the highest one in the region, in the proximity. And we're going to do a quick circle around the mountain, and then head north to a small lake, and we're going to drop off some supplies in an island, a small island in the lake, and then we're going to take off from the lake and head back to our original airport. So it's a fun flight, gets to kind of test a lot of the capabilities of this aircraft. I'm going to set the autopilot here on heading hold. And here we're approaching the mountain. We're going to descend eventually and fly pretty close to it. Here I'm showing on the map, we're going to go east, then north, then southwest, just as I explained. Make sure as you're climbing to lean out the mixture. It is manual mixture. Looks pretty nice flying through the clouds. I just love this aircraft, just the feel of it when you're flying. I think Carenado really captured the sounds really well, and I'm definitely going to be flying this aircraft a lot for my bush flying adventures. And I mentioned a couple videos ago that I'm going to mainly focus on the ERJ for my Microsoft Flight Simulator 2004 flights, and it's a great aircraft, and I am going to focus on it, but I just couldn't help myself, and I've been checking out a lot of cool payware add-ons for Flight Simulator 2004, and I think I may get into and buy Quality Wings British Aerospace 146 collection, because I just saw a few videos and I fell in love with the aircraft. It reminds me a lot of the Boeing 737, and it's an aircraft that can fly at my first officer level for virtual United Airlines. And it's got an autopilot, automatic throttle, just like the 737. The ERJ 145, which I currently fly, does not have an automatic throttle, which is kind of interesting. I explained in my first video, it's an interesting dynamic to be flying while controlling just the throttle and vertical speed with the throttle and your regular speed. But I do enjoy full automatic flights too, and the 146 is good for that. It is a 4-engined regional jet, kind of an interesting design. Not actively in service anymore as far as I know, so it is a retro aircraft. But it does have an FMC, and yeah, it should be fun to fly. I'm also going to be continuing my DC-3 World Rally. I have 5 more flights to do. The World Rally is over, but I still have all the information about the flights, and I would like to finish them, and I do want to get the MAMSIM DC-3, and it's a really nice add-on. MAMSIM is actually a museum that puts out add-ons for Flight Simulator, and they do a really good job. They have one for the DC-3, one for the Avenger, TBF Avenger, and one for the B-25. And I'd like to get the first two, the MAMSIM DC-3 and eventually the Avenger. They did a really nice job on those aircraft, and I love the DC-3, as you can probably tell from a lot of the videos that I've put out, and I want to continue flights with the DC-3 using the MAMSIM add-on. And you know it's a really good add-on when the DC-3 Airways, which takes DC-3 flying to the next level, recommends it, and I think it's their favorite version of the DC-3 for Microsoft Flight Simulator, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's other add-ons that I'm looking at. There's a trainer add-on for the T6 Texan by Vertavia, originally made by AlphaSim, that I'd like to get into and practice flight maneuvers and aerobatics and things like that. Captain Sim has an add-on for the Boeing 727, which is another aircraft I'm intrigued by. and they actually have two of them, one for FSX and one for FS 2004. The one for Flight Simulator X is definitely better, but the 2004 one is okay too, which is the one I'm thinking of getting. And yeah, just other add-ons, and I've actually been discovering freeware aircraft again. I thought after getting these payware aircraft I would never even want to come close to a freeware aircraft, but there are actually some really nice freeware aircraft out there that I am still really looking forward to trying. I just downloaded a Junkers 52, and I want to do a flight with that. There's a freeware Corsair, which I'm surprised I hadn't heard of before, but I did discover it, and I want to do a historic flight with that. I won't put links to all these that I mentioned below because eventually I want to do videos for them, and I'll link to all the freeware and payware aircraft in the description of those videos. So, enough about planning and future flights. Let's get back to this one. So here I'm coming up on the lake that we're going to land at, and we do have a cargo bay full of supplies, and the back seat is also full of supplies, and we're delivering them to a rich hermit who has decided to live on this island and occasionally gets supplies delivered here for him to sustain himself. Kind of like a Howard Hughes character, if you will. Of course, I have made this little story up to make my flight interesting. Could just as easily be scientists that are on this island that need supplies, or whatever you want to make it. Just makes the flight a little more fun, a little more imaginative for me. So landing on water, you want to make sure your landing gear are up, and the water rudders are up. You want to maintain 70 to 80 miles an hour with flaps extended. Just have to taxi up to the island. Fast forward it a little bit. I'm going to do an exterior shot, and I will remove my cargo. I wonder if it actually affects the weight of the plane when you remove it, or if it's just the graphic. I'm not sure. I love the sound of the engine when it's just idling, kind of like sputtering. I love that sound. Okay, now we're ready to take off again. Takeoff on water is interesting. You want to make sure all your lights are properly set, landing gears up. You want to put your water rudder back up. I think you just use that for taxiing. Set your trim, set flaps to 20 degrees again. And you do have to hold your wheel back as you're increasing the throttle. That's kind of interesting for me. I've never encountered that before. And I think it's because if there's waves and you're taking off with moderate waves, you don't want your nose to dive into them. I think. And that's my interpretation. You see, I pulled my wheel back, my yoke back, and then it gently push the back forward, and then the plane will take off with slight back pressure on the stick. And I did do this flight actually before the B-17 flight that I just had posted. Just haven't had a chance to put this one up. There's the mountain that we flew around off in the distance. Sometimes I post videos not in chronological order in which I make them. But yeah, there's some videos that I made several months ago that I still have to post, like the latest DC-3 World Rally flight. Really nice, really fun aircraft to fly, this Cessna 185 by Carenado. And we're coming up on our final approach to land. The procedure for landing, normal landing, is actually just like with the default 185 bush plane. Let me get the right checklist out. You want to put your mixture to rich. You want to make sure your fuel selector valve is on both on. You want to close your cowl flaps, which makes sense. I don't think I actually did that on my first flight with this aircraft, but you do want them closed for landing, because you're not gonna run the throttle up like you would on takeoff, and your engine shouldn't overheat on a takeoff in a landing situation. Sorry. You want to put your propeller to high RPM, which I do have, and you want your airspeed to be between 85 and 95 miles an hour. Flaps flaps as desired, it says. You want to have your wheels down, obviously, water rudder up. There's no tail wheel lock on this version, I believe, because it's got the floats. And obviously no tail wheel. So I'm just switching between the checklist for the amphibian version and the regular version, because the amphibian version does reference the regular checklist. The amphibian checklist for landing says you want to land on the main wheels first, nose slightly above level flight attitude. Lower the nose wheel gently to the runway after speed is diminished, and you'll see that those nose wheels are really flimsy looking. You don't want to break them off with a hard landing on those wheels first. And you want to avoid excessive braking unless an obstacle is ahead. So my approach was kind of hurried. I actually, in the distance, did not see where the runway was. I was aiming for the taxiway first and had to adjust. So the next few flights are probably going to be trying new aircraft, and yeah, that means that all these landings, takeoffs, and procedures are going to be new for me again, which is fine. I'm still discovering the world of Flight Simulator 2004, and I do want to keep flying these aircraft and get proficient in them. But I'm just kind of at that discovery phase where I want to try everything new, and then kind of like a kid in a candy store. Eventually, once I've tried everything, I can focus in on the details. And I don't know if I mentioned in my other video that I've recently been getting into looking at real aircraft manuals. And the Cessna 185 is a good place to start, because the Skywagon manual is for the real aircraft, not for the add-on. It's not that long, and you can actually just get through it and find out everything a pilot should know about this aircraft for flying. And I think it really enhances your flight simulator experience. And I've gotten manuals for the F4U, which because I'm in the VF-17 squadron, I really want to learn how this aircraft was actually flown. I've gotten part of a manual for the ERJ-145, and one of the draws of the Quality Wings 146 collection add-on, why I want to get that aircraft, is because they have a great manual that not only explains how to fly the aircraft, but also explains its systems. It's kind of like an intermediary between like a real-world manual and just like a quick start guide that a lot of add-ons have. So yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to, and I think it'll enhance my ERJ 145 flights too, because the Feel There manual is good, but it's not as extensive. So as we're taxiing to parking, I open the cowl flaps again, because that's the way they were when we first entered the aircraft. I turn off the landing lights, turn on my taxi lights. You want to retract your flaps as always after landing. Set your trim for takeoff again. And I should mention, with all these checklists and things that I'm going through, you shouldn't use anything I say for real-world flying, just for flight simulators. I feel like that goes without saying for most of my videos. I don't think anybody's actually going to watch this and go and fly a real Cessna based on what I say. I really hope not. But I guess I should throw the disclaimer out there, just in case, you know. Looking forward to trying an ILS landing with this aircraft on a future flight. Try those navigation radios out. You want to put on your parking brake once you're ready to secure the aircraft. Turn off all your lights and radios and everything like that. To stop your engine, you want to cut the mixture. And you want to put your ignition and master switch to off. There's actually a procedure that I've seen some YouTubers that put up videos of the Cessna 172 that they do, the A2A version of the 172, which is really accurate, which clears the fuel from the cylinders when you, right before you shut down the aircraft. I think it has something to do with RPM, and maybe you run up the engine quickly before shutdown. I'll have to look that up. I think it applies to this Cessna as well. It's kind of a real-world technique that I'll look into. So we're going to do a quick exterior shot, put our covers back on, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did like this video, hit like, please, and if you want to watch more videos, subscribe. It helps me out. And as always, I'll see you guys in the virtual skies. Until next time.